Certainly, if there's anybody who can come off a loss and get an interim title fight, I think this circumstance is about as good as it can get for that. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, Aljo sidelined due to recovering neck surgery. Enter the Sandman, Cory Sandhagen. He's going to be taking on Petr Yan for what is going to be contested as an interim bantamweight title fight at UFC 267, a card that's had a couple of fights fall out. We saw RDA pull out of the Islam Makhachev card, and now this happening to Aljo. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to get in there, but I'm still actually very excited to see Cory Sandhagen against Petr Yan, and I do think an interim belt in this situation is called for.
Absolutely. It's always a bummer when somebody's sidelined due to injury or surgery, or they can't get medically cleared. And, when it's your neck, you're not playing with something simple or minor. It's not a tweaked ankle or something. Your neck is, you could literally become paralyzed if you don't do the right things and take the right steps in the right order. But I can't help but say that the MMA fan in me is excited to see Petr Yan in a title fight against somebody that isn't Aljamain Sterling. And Cory Sandhagen is the right guy. There's a lot of injuries that are kind of sidelining the top contenders at the bantamweight weight class right now. TJ Dillashaw being one, Aljo now being another one. So it kind of makes sense that Sandhagen gets the interim shot, and Petr Yan is, he's clearly the number one guy. I personally thought that fight against Aljamain Sterling wasn't even kind of competitive. Of course, he made an illegal move and that got disqualified and ended up losing his belt off of it. But he was clearly the better fighter in that situation. And I had a feeling he would be fighting for a title immediately after that. And it just sucks that Aljo's out for this one.
Yeah, it does. And Aljo, it's kind of, I see it from both sides of the situation, right? I feel for Aljo because he did nothing wrong in the situation. He was getting bested by a better fighter, and he got blasted with an illegal knee. That was Petr Yan's fault. He should have known better, and he paid for it. And so I feel like he did the crime. He's done the time, and now it's kind of a wash. He's been forgiven, and he's getting his chance at the interim belt. But at the same time, I don't believe that it's fair to hold up the rest of bantamweight for Aljo, who got the belt by those circumstances and has now had to push this fight off multiple times. You have your TJ Dillashaws, you have your Cory Sandhagens, guys that are very deserving of a title shot, that are just waiting and not getting it because of what's going on at the top of bantamweight between Yan and Sterling. And you mentioned TJ Dillashaw. The UFC did come out and say that this fight would have been TJ's had it not been for the fact that he's also recovering from a surgery, albeit a knee surgery. I would have loved to see TJ versus Yan. We still may, but it's almost to me like when you watch Yan, it's that classic in-your-face, rough Muay Thai style that they teach in Thailand against what Dwayne Ludwig has kind of crafted into his own form of kickboxing and Muay Thai, which is Bang Muay Thai, which is a little bit more dynamic and lateral in movement. Those guys are the same height roughly, so it would make for an extremely interesting fight. Cory Sandhagen is also an extremely interesting opponent for Yan just by the nature of the fact that he's so much taller. Yan's a shorter guy for bantamweight. Sandhagen's a taller guy for bantamweight. So you're going to see very similar to what you saw with TJ, which is a huge height disparity from the gate. And I think it's going to really come down to how well Petr can close the distance and land those inside shots, because what we do know about Petr is when he lands, it's got bad intentions all over it. And Petr Yan is the kind of guy that can knock you out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's kind of just been putting clinics on everybody that he's been fighting. And it would almost be unfair and it wouldn't be right if the UFC put him in anything other than title fights for right now, until we can actually see somebody, beat him or take some rounds away from him. But Cory Sandhagen, he had such a great performance in his last fight, didn't win against TJ Dillashaw, but had a great performance, and he just happens to be able to take the fight. TJ won it, but he had to go get the surgery because he wasn't well and was injured. And that's one thing I love about this sport. You can lose a fight and move right into an interim title fight. Everything is just so interchangeable in this sport, and I really like that. But it is going to be a hard night in the office for Cory Sandhagen, I think. Petr Yan's just so good everywhere. He's really good with the striking. If Cory wins this fight, I feel like it's going to be with a wild knockout or like a crazy type of thing. You know, I don't really see this happening on the ground. Cory's not really the type of guy to take a fight to the ground, and Yan's perfectly fine with standing and trading with everybody. The most difficult matchup I could see this fight taking place would be if Cory Sandhagen gets caught at that Muay Thai striking range with Petr Yan, because I think he might get a little bit outclassed, and just volume from Petr Yan is going to be really hard to deal with. But if he corrects the mistakes he made against TJ Dillashaw, I think it'll be a pretty competitive fight, and it'll be appropriate for the interim title.
Yeah, and I do believe that he does have to correct some of those mistakes from the Dillashaw fight, because I believe that Yan hits with more pop than TJ does. We know TJ's got some great knockouts. You know, Cody No Love comes to mind. But I think that at 135, given the pounds per square inch of power that you can deliver based on the frame that you have, Petr Yan's got to be top of the list. I mean, he throws with really bad intentions, very good kicks, devastating elbows, an excellent Muay Thai clinch with the knees. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to break Peter's posture, to break Cory's posture and bring him down into that clinch and land some knees effectively. That'll be tough on an almost 6 foot tall fighter, but it's going to be interesting to see. I do think that Yan is going to win this fight. I'm leaning towards him to win this fight just because Cory did show in the TJ fight that he can get hit, and you can't take too much damage from Petr Yan. I think Cory's best chances are going to be to land something along the lines of what he landed against Frankie Edgar early in the fight while they're still fresh, you know, catch him with a big spinning back fist or a flying knee or something like that. But if this fight becomes a technical war, I believe Petr to be the better technician.
Yeah, and I think he'll probably he could get a finish himself. I'm kind of leaning towards Petr Yan being able to finish Cory and doing it on the feet with that great classic Muay Thai stance. And, you know, hopefully that lines up a fight with TJ later on, and we do get to see Petr versus TJ. And then, you know, it's kind of good for Aljamain to get, you know, he was the champion. He is the champion. But, you know, the way he won it and having to go through surgery, all that kind of stuff, it's not going to wipe the slate clean, but it's going to let us forget how he got his title. I'm sure it haunts him. It doesn't feel like an official title for him, and even though he acts like it sometimes on social media. I think that this is going to do him well, and I think that maybe if Petr Yan's not the guy that he has to go up against first, it could be better for Aljamain Sterling, at least as the champion. But my money's on Petr Yan taking the belt in the interim title fight, moving right into whoever he needs to fight, and his next fight after Cory Sandhagen will be for an official title.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And that's my prediction as well. Yeah. But if we're wrong, Cory Sandhagen wins this interim title. Aljo finished Cory Sandhagen.
In a matter of seconds.
You got to feel like that would almost be like a heavy weight off of Aljo's back. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have to fight that Yan guy again. I can beat a guy who I've already finished in the first round. So I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to go with Yan to win this. And I think he's going to probably win it late. I'm going to say third round because he's going to systematically break Cory down. Cory's a tough guy. Yeah. I mean, he really is. TJ Dillashaw is not anybody to play with in there. And Cory went 5 rounds with him, and some people even thought that he won that fight.
Certainly won rounds.
Yeah, certainly. If there's anybody who can come off a loss and get an interim title fight, I think this circumstance is about as good as it can get for that, because that was a great performance against TJ. Even though he didn't win, he showed tremendous skill, showed that he's up there with the best, and I'm not mad at all that they're putting a guy in there off a loss in for an interim title.
Yeah, and it'd be super cool to see him and TJ run it back with the title on the line. So maybe Cory will shock the world, beat Petr Yan, and get that belt, and then TJ will recover soon and be able to contest for it.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed the content, a like, comment, and subscribe is always much appreciated. And if you listen to audio podcasts, check us out where you listen to those as well. Until the next time, guys, have a great day.
Peace.